The Russian army has gone total scorched earth strategy in Ukraine, and we've got to talk about it. Let's go bold. I'm Scott Patton. Thank you all for joining us today for the Go Bold podcast. Please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and share button as we continue in our series about the Ukrainian war and Russia, the Russian-Ukrainian war that we're seeing right now. And what I wanted to do, folks, is give you guys an update from last week. I think it's been about 6 days since the last time I talked to you, and give you my thoughts on what I'm seeing right now from a strategic, operational, and tactical level of war that we're seeing from the Russian army. Some significant activities, but I want to start with. I want you to look at that map. This was the array of forces about 11 days ago when this invasion started. I think it was on February the 28th, Thursday, February 28th. Or it might have been 24th. Yeah, it was the 24th. About 11 days ago when this started. And what you see there in those little icons are Russian units and how they were arrayed before the attack. But one of the things that I saw when I was kind of looking at doing some research on this beforehand, and I talked to you about it on previous podcasts, is the Russian army really didn't have a lot of logistics forward. So it didn't look like it was going to be the scale of attack that we've seen. I think this was due now, in hindsight, looking at it, what I think is the Russian generals that were in charge of this campaign really thought that they could take Ukraine in several days, and they didn't need the big logistical tail to sustain this army. Now, when you see this group of these tactical groups that they fight in, and these similar to like our divisions and corps, and they're arrayed a little bit different than our armies are, but irregardless, when you're looking at that number of soldiers there, so you're looking at probably about 130,000, 140,000 soldiers that are arrayed there around Ukraine. And what I'm going to show you here in a chart here in a second is going to show you what I think looks like inside Ukraine right now. But my point in all this is, if you're going to have that many soldiers and you're going to have to sustain a campaign in a country the size of Texas, you're going to need a whole lot of logistics, and we talked about that. So this was kind of their array on forces. Now let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to today. I think it would be day 12 of the war. Now I want you to look at this next chart. And this is really this is where we're seeing a change in the Russian strategy here. So what you see now is what that invading force actually did and kind of what it looks like. And I want to show you there at the top. In the northern part of the country where Kyiv is, you're going to see, you saw about 2 days ago, we kind of saw a supporting attack into what would be Kyiv. And then you saw the main effort attack coming from the north down into Kyiv, and you saw that. This is when you see a double triangle like that in an attack formation, that means that's an army's main effort in military parlance and military graphics. So you're seeing that as a main effort is in the north and in Kyiv. Now, you see down in the south, you see a multiple supporting efforts. Now, I will tell you, and when you designate this from a military standpoint, you designate this as supporting effort 1, 2, and 3, or 4, how many supporting efforts you got. One of the things that you're going to see here is a supporting effort in the south. I think the supporting effort 1 would be the very far south, and what you're seeing in Crimea there. Now, the other part to that is you're going to see some other supporting attacks. But when I say that, those are supporting attacks to support the main effort. Is to really cut off Kiev, or I'm sorry, Kyiv. It's really easy to say Kiev, but it's pronounced Kyiv. So you're seeing that now. You're seeing some, and we've gone over this in the previous podcast. This is a lot harder than Russia ever anticipated. And what you're seeing the Ukrainian army kick the Russians' teeth in, and at at the tactical, at the operational, and the strategic level that we saw. And the other thing that I didn't talk about in the last podcast that is really, really starting to have major effects on Russia is Ukraine is winning the strategic communications battle. They're winning the information war worldwide. And this is putting enormous pressure on Russia. You're seeing it. So the strategic, the STRATCOM, as we call it in the Army, the strategic communications is vital. I mean, you look at, I mean, this goes way back. I mean, you see this time and time again in warfare, folks. If you could win the messaging war, and which Ukraine is winning the mess, everybody in the world is for Ukraine right now. Everybody in the world hates Russia. And so Ukraine is winning that information war. So at the strategic level, there's a whole lot of things going on that's separate from the United States. You could take the United States out of it right now. There's a whole lot of things going on. Now, let me just talk about some things as we've seen here that are unfolding here. Because of the tremendous amount of success that the Ukrainian army and the Ukrainian resistance had and Zelensky's had, it has really put egg in the face of Vladimir Putin, and it's just something so funny to see Putin getting embarrassed on a strategic stage in front of the world. But it also comes with consequences, because here's what's going to happen. All of those about 140,000 forces that you see there, I think, just on reports that I've seen, I think most of those forces are now inside the country of Ukraine. And the Russian army has taken incredible losses. But here's what I want you to understand. I don't want you to think that Ukraine is going to win this fight here, because they are eventually going to capitulate to the Russian army. That's going to happen. But one of the things that you're going to see the Russians do, they are going to start anything that is not an energy or resource-related target, they're going to wipe off the face of the earth, guys. I mean, that's the hard reality of war. They are gonna try to turn, I think, Kyiv into a parking lot. They're going to do it as fast as they can, and they're not going to care about collateral damage unless it benefits them strategically or operationally, and more strategically, because I'm gonna kind of segue into the second part of their strategy that has been updated here, that based on what Ukraine has done. So a lot of times in warfare, guys, you have when you war game these things, and they never go as anticipated. A fight never does. And you have to look at what you're doing versus what the enemy does, and you have his reaction and then your counter reaction. And you kind of play this tit and tat, and you're going to see this strategy kind of unfolding here that you see on this map. Here's what I want you to understand, though. So Putin now sees that he couldn't take Ukraine in a couple of days. He thought this was going to be like Panama or Grenada for the United States. It's not, and it blows my mind how inept that the Russian generals are fighting this. I mean, absolutely. Their lack of strategic sophistication is blowing my mind at the operational at the strategic level of their army right now. But here's what I want you to understand: Russia is going to win eventually, and they're gonna take over Ukraine. Now, here's what I want you to understand: the second part of his strategy that has always been, I think, his main strategy. We talked about this a little bit in the last podcast. I want you to go to this next chart here, and I'm calling this really segment 3, and it's the energy as a weapon. Now, this was always Putin's end game. He wanted to weaponize. He knew that now with President Biden, that the United States was going to be very, very vulnerable to energy prices because of all the lack of drilling and all the Green New Deal things that happened with the Democratic Party and President Biden. So he knew that the price of oil, he had all this in his calculations, guys. I'm just going to tell you. So from a strategy standpoint, he knew that he could leverage this. But the other problem, like I've talked about in the previous podcast, this is Germany. I mean, a lot of this resides with Germany because they don't have any type of, I mean, all they have is wind and solar. When you don't have any sunlight for 2 years and you don't have any wind for 2 years, you're going to run out. So he was getting about 73% of his oil and natural gas from Russia. Germany was. So Putin knew all this. But if you look at this map here, this other map here, you're going to see some spots here. And what I want you to focus on here is in the south. Don't focus on Kyiv, because Kyiv is the main effort, and that's where Putin thought he could. This is where he really thought if he gets a foothold of Kyiv, he could really take over the country. But here's what I want you to understand: what his strategy was from the get-go. As you see, he has taken over all these ports in the Black Sea, in the Sea of Azov, and you see these port cities, Odessa, and the places like that, and you see these little arrows that are you see these port cities of like Kherson, and these are port cities, and what they do, they already have all of the things that you can do to move and receive and ship oil, period. And see, guys, this is what this is all about. This is what Putin's strategy. He wants to control all of the Black Sea. And he did this a little bit in Crimea back in 2014 when he invaded and took over Crimea. And of course, the U.S. didn't do anything. And it's when, with President Obama, we just sat there and let him have it. So he has taken this foothold. So it's all about moving his energy, okay, his oil and his natural gas. And because he knows that regardless of what he does, or regardless of all the humanitarian crimes that he's committing, he's banking that, you know what, the United States now with President Biden is not going to drill any oil. In fact, folks, we'll talk about this here in a second. We're still giving it to him. So we're still buying his oil, and we're still paying him for his oil, and that's a whole other segment we're going to talk about here in a second. But you see this strategy here. So I want you to think about that as a backdrop. So this is what's changing. Now there are some other things too. If you go into this next step, you're going to see this picture. It's taken at night, obviously when there was a big fight for a nuclear power plant that was outside of Kyiv. About 5 days ago. Got a lot of people riled up, and here's what I'll tell you about it. From what I've read, you had, Russia wanted to take control of this. They have now taken control of this nuclear power plant outside of Kyiv, but there was a fight there to take it. Now, here's the thing. There was a tank and artillery battle around here, which was strategically stupid on Russia's part. Now, I know they wanted to take it, and it blows my mind that they would have Sabo tank rounds fired into this place or artillery rounds, because it was very close to causing a nuclear disaster like Chernobyl that would have been on a scale that we haven't seen in a long time. But thankfully, there wasn't the last reports I've got, there wasn't a significant fire. It looked pretty bad, and it was looking really bad at first. But what I want you to understand here, this is one of those places that I don't think strategically, when he saw what was happening on the ground, he probably put a halt to make sure they could do everything to put this fire out, because he wants that nuclear plant, because this nuclear plant right here controls about 25 to 30%, is a report that I read, of the power that's in Ukraine. So what Putin's going to do, just like Saddam Hussein used to do in Iraq, energy is the weapon, not only at the strategic level like he's doing to the United States and the rest of the world and Germany and Europe. He's doing it at the tactical level. So if he can control that power plant and he can control that energy in the electricity, he can control the population. Saddam Hussein was a master at this, and we've seen this all the time. But the other thing, too, that's just more power for him. Like I said, his strategy has always been to take over everything energy, okay? And this is just another a way he can do that. Now, he owns that nuclear plant. He has control of it. And so he's going to continue to leverage that for his purposes, his evil, nefarious things, and he's going to use it to also control the electrical population and the power population inside of Ukraine. Now, guys, I can't tell you enough. Some of Russia has faced significant casualties here in this war, but what's been fascinating is the amount of senior level leaders, colonels and generals that are getting killed in this fight. You saw last week. I'm going to go into. You saw this picture of the big bearded Wahhabist who was part of the. He was the commander of the Chechen kill squad. We talked about him last week on our podcast. Mogab Tashavov, who was a commando he was a one-star general. He commanded the Chechen death squads to go in there to Kyiv and kill the President Zelensky, but he got killed in the process, and a lot of those Chechen fighters have been killed by the Ukrainian forces, which is remarkable what you're seeing. And they've eliminated a lot of those. They've killed a lot of the Chechen special forces right now. So you saw that I think that happened on day 3 of the invasion. But what you're seeing, what happened 3 days ago is a senior level Russian commander was killed. And you see his picture there. His name is Russian Major General. I'm going to butcher his name, I'm sure. Andrew Sokovakisi. He was killed, Andrei Sokovasi, I think I'm saying that name right, killed by and Ukrainians. The report that I got was that I saw it was a sniper that killed him. Now I want to tell you guys, this is pretty significant. It would be he commanded one of their airborne divisions. I think it was the 7th Airborne Division of Russia. That's equivalent to that would be equivalent in the U.S. Army for the commander of the 101st Airborne or the commander of the 82nd Airborne being killed. And it tells me something tactically that's going on here. What blows my mind is it's fair to say that the Russian generals they get out and they lead from the front. These guys are they're good war fighters. They may be evil and they may be all that, but they know how to fight. And they lead from the front many times. They're tough, and they probably fight more. And our generals do too, and that's what a lot of people don't understand. We fight. A lot of our generals fight forward too. So it's not so much just the Russians, but I will tell you they're not back in the rear of the gear a lot of times. But what I want you to understand is. This is pretty significant because also during this fight, the 41st Deputy Commander of the 41st Combined Arms Army was also killed along with this Major General. So this is pretty significant, folks, but it tells me tactically that, and I don't think the Ukrainians knew that when they probably, the sniper that killed this Major General probably knew that he was a high-ranking officer, but they probably didn't know exactly who he was. But this is fascinating that you have snipers that can get this close to a 2-star senior level division commander like you saw there. So it's fascinating to see this, but it also, I will tell you, had second and third order effects on morale. So imagine you're in the 7th Russian Airborne, and you just find out that you're a 2-star general who is on this pedestal in a soldier's eyes, gets assassinated. So this is a gigantic win for the Ukrainian army because it damages the psyche, but the other psyche it damages is back. The one report I got is he was close to Putin. Another report I got, he was very, very popular inside Russia. And he's a very popular figure inside the retirees from the Russian army, the vets from the Russian army. He was probably he was a guy most responsible for the tactical successes they had in Crimea in 2014. I'll tell you guys, I've talked about it before. They fought pretty amazingly, and we learned a lot of things. Our army did from some of the things that they did in Crimea, and this major general was a part of that. So don't underestimate what a significant win that is for the Ukrainians to knock him out. But the next thing I want to talk about is kind of the U.S. way ahead, and this is where I just cannot believe what President Biden and his national security staff are thinking right now. The things that we're seeing on a world scale and this whole idea of Russia's energy. Guys, just let me, I think the report that I got this morning is oil is now $130 a barrel. This didn't have to be this way. And today and tomorrow, we're going to buy, I want to say the last report that I got, we're going to buy about 250,000 barrels of oil a day from Russia. We're going to buy that today. We're going to buy that tomorrow. And some estimates have anywhere from $40 to $60 million a day that we're spending, that we're giving Russia. Okay. So we're financing this war. The United States is financing this war with the oil that we've had that we're bringing here. Guys, you cannot make this up. This blows my mind. They said, well, we're going to have to get it from others. No, we've got it right here in the United States. Here, guys, this is what is so disappointing. I got that you want to have cleaner energy, okay? Yeah, but you just can't stop doing everything. This is insane. And here's what I'm saying. If we can go back to what we had a year ago, it would bankrupt Russia. We would not have this. We would not have the $130 oil. This is exactly what Putin planned Biden would do. This is exactly what he knew that our Democrats in Congress would do. He knew this, and he's strategically eating their lunch right now, because it doesn't have to be this way. We are sending. This. Look how much it already has cost us. We've sent massive amounts of soldiers to Poland. Europe is in a strategic mess right now. Okay, and it's because we have in the United States held our own energy systems hostage, and we've got to stop that, guys. This is just their lack of strategic sophistication here is frankly amazing, and we have put the politics of the new Green Deal and everything. We're trying to be like Germany, which causes to be in this war in the first place. And guys, just pray for some common sense here. That's what we need. We need to pray for common sense here. Now, let me talk about, besides the strategic problems that we're seeing with the United States and our lack of this, because the sanctions don't have any teeth, and our lack of a coherent energy policy. I want you to look at this next segment, and what you're going to see. Yes, Russia is going to win. Yes, Russia is going to take over large swaths of territory in Ukraine. But I'm going to tell you something, guys. I think it is going to absolutely bankrupt them with treasure and blood and currency. I want you to look at this helicopter being shot down by the Ukrainian army. Let's watch this. Okay, you see that burning helicopter, probably shot down by a Stinger missile, U.S.-made Stinger missile. And thankfully, back in 2019, just like with the other military equipment that we gave them, we were able to arm the Ukrainian army with capabilities. You see, you've got to be able to arm them with capabilities, and that's what I'm talking about. When we have things like the Javelin missile, have things like the Stinger missile. I want you guys to put this in perspective. What I think you're going to see Ukraine. Now, you're going to see Russia take over large swaths of terrain. They're going to carpet bomb a lot of these places. But here's what's going to happen: the Russian army is going to fight one of the most brutal insurgencies that we've seen in a long time. Yes, I'm going to tell you guys this. Look how hard it was for the U.S. Army and to fight a brutal insurgency in Iraq. It was tough, guys, and it was. Here's the thing: we were fighting when we were fighting Iraq. It was like we were the Jetsons and they were the Flintstones. Okay, and look how hard it was to fight this counterinsurgency with the U.S. Army in Iraq. Okay, look how hard that was. Look how hard it was for Afghanistan. Okay, now keep all that in mind. Ukraine has a lot better leadership. We are pushing them really sophisticated weapons like the Javelin, like Stingers, and I got a report that now that NATO's going to let them have their own aircraft, which is going to be huge. So this is going to be a $1 trillion endeavor for Russia, and they don't have $1 trillion. This is going to cost them lots of lives. Now you're going to see this in the Russian army is going to prevail in the convention war, but the guerrilla war that you're going to see is going to compare to a lot of things that you've seen in the past, like Chechnya, like Colombia, like the insurgencies in Yemen, but they're going to be on a scale much larger because you have to understand that we're going to be hopefully giving the Ukrainians a lot of our sophisticated weapons, a lot of our drones, a lot of other things that we do. And I want you to understand historically in this region, from World War I to World War II, the Ukrainians have fought insurgencies for a long time. And this unconventional warfare that you're going to start seeing unfold, unless there's some type of peace that's coming, it is going to get nasty because the Russian army is going to have to go into these cities, and they're going to have to clear them block by block. And I'm just going to tell you guys, they don't have the combat power to do that. They do not have the combat power to do that. And the Ukrainian people they're going to be some nasty guerrilla warfare fighters, and it's going to be a campaign that I think I heard one reporter or one special forces guy that was talking on one of the news talking points of the day. It's going to bleed them dry. That's what's going to happen. And so it's going to get nasty. And the other part to this is you're going to see a significant humanitarian crisis as a result of that. Now, the last thing I want to close with is one of the things that you're going to see. You see these talks of ceasefires for humanitarian purposes. Russia announced that. Guys, that's a bunch of junk. And when they're trying to evacuate people, they're not evacuating them to Poland. They're evacuating them up north to Belarus and these different places. This is all part of their strategy. Don't believe any ceasefire that Russia tells you about, okay, that they announce, because it's junk. It's another way to confuse, and this is how communists and Marxists do. They confuse. They put out disinformation, and I wouldn't take any ceasefire that Putin announces really seriously right now until a lot of other actors get involved in this. But the last thing I want to tell you guys is have your churches pray for the Ukrainians, and also have them pray for the Russians. I saw so many reports that a lot of these Russian soldiers had no idea. They thought they were going to Ukraine as an exercise. And I also pray, that God would remove these strategic leaders that are just bent on evil. And I would just pray that we would have the Russian people could do things to overthrow the regime that's in Russia, because I will tell you guys, it's going to bleed them dry. But there's also a lot of Christians in Russia that we need to pray for. We need to pray for our missionaries that are in Ukraine, our pastors that stayed in Ukraine. But most of all, folks, the families in Ukraine, the mothers and the children. This is going to be a humanitarian disaster that Europe has not seen since World War II. And please pray, continue to pray for them. And that, my brothers and sisters in Christ, is how we go bold. God bless you, and go bold.